Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're watching this transition. It is I, Mike Martins, bringing you another housing discussion story, housing discussion warning for the people living down under. I did a Vancouver update, a Canada wrap up, a UK wrap up, New Zealand wrap up. And tomorrow, guys, don't forget to join me for Trends in the Housing Market. Trends in the Housing Market is streamed on my backup channel. I am no longer allowed to stream until pretty much the end of March because I was discussing Australian real estate, believe it or not. I did a video 4 years. I think it was about 4 years ago now because we're in 2019. 16, 17, 18, 19. No. It was 2015. And I was talking about how it's the real estate debt trap in Australia. It's an absolute disaster. Do not invest in Australian real estate. It might be a disaster if you buy in Sydney. If you buy at the right time, you might be okay. And I was warning people for years now, many years. And the sad part is you have a lot of these Captain Obvious coming out. People sending me links. Hey, look at this housing guy. Look at what this guy's saying about Australian housing. Look what this guy's talking about American housing. Look at what this guy's talking about UK housing. Or look at this guy in Canada. He's talking about housing. I check. I don't even watch the video. I go to the videos. I look at the oldest video. I click oldest. Okay. His oldest video is, he's been on YouTube since 2012. Okay. What's his oldest video? I check. Okay. His oldest video is a year old, and it's about something else. And then he started doing housing videos all of a sudden, and housing correction or housing crash videos 3 months ago. Why weren't these people there a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago to warn the masses? I was. And I'm going to bring this up every once in a while. I've been getting dirt kicked at me, people trolling me and trashing me in the comments, trashing my family, trashing everything, and trashing the way I look, trashing the way I wear my clothing or whatever I'm doing, always trashing me. And then now where are those people that are trashing me? I don't know. They're probably crying right now because they don't have it. They don't have two nickels to rub together. And why are all these Captain Obviouses coming out all of a sudden? It makes no sense to me. I am not, it's broke now fix. I'm like, okay, let's fix this before it gets broke type of thing. I'm like a guy that's in the background, way in the back, that I can see over the horizon like this and say, you know what? This is really not looking good. And, this is not looking good. And we need to fix this problem before it gets any worse. Or why aren't people seeing this problem? Why aren't people taking into account this is more than their, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to put that out there. All these Captain Obvious is doing all these real estate videos all of a sudden. Is Mike Martin's jealous? I don't give a rat's, because nobody was out there. The Lost Canuck was there. Forma Fist was there too. Who else was there? Forma Fist was there. And the Lost Canuck. I'm just trying to think of other channels that were there, before when people were laughing at me. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, so, I just want to thank everybody out there for supporting me all these years and that got into a divorce because of me. But you're not in the rears with your property. You are sitting tight right now with your down payment that you never spent on a house, a $2 million bungalow that's realistically worth $300,000. Oh, yeah. Woo! Okay, guys, so this is what's happening right now. A kick in the guts for hard-working Australians. How property prices could plunge 300,000. I can't see that. And spark a recession under Labor's tax plans for landlords. How property and finance founder Bushy Martin worried about Labor policy. He predicted it would cause an average Sydney house prices to fall 300 large. No, it has nothing to do with Labor policy and all. It probably does now. But originally, when your house is 16 times your average income and rates need to go up, I think affordability issues is a big problem. And I think not being able to secure the financing is another problem. But let's get to what it's saying here. Well, he predicted the fall by 300,000 when? Last week? I predicted a 50% correction 3-4 years ago. Even before houses reach their peak. Opposition plans to dilute negative gearing tax breaks for rental homeowners. Shadow Treasurer Chris Bowen has doubled down on a plan to hit rich retirees. Ooh, sexy Russian babes. All right, let's move on. Labor's plan to restrict tax breaks for landlords could wipe 300 large off the average Sydney and Melbourne house prices. A mortgage broking group fears. So, guys, if you own a home in Australia, even though it's your primary residence, you're considered an investor. In Canada, you're a homeowner. You're a family guy. You know, it's a little bit different. I didn't buy this house to invest in it. I bought this house so I could raise my family and have kids. Bushy Martin, the founder of Know-How Property Finance, predicted the opposition's plan to scrap the negative gearing for future purchases of existing property would also plunge Australia into a recession the first time in 1991. A recession is a catastrophe. We've had 28 years strong economic growth, he told Daily Mail in Australia. Remember, guys, Australia did not see the 2006, 7, 8 crash. Remember, Australia looked on its TVs while Americans were losing and mailing their keys back of their homes to their banks. Jingle mail. Australians were watching in fear that it could come to them, but don't worry, we're just going to artificially lower rates to save our economy. And then once you inhumanly do stuff that has once you start doing that, you start entering into massive stagnation and deflationary environment. And then once your housing starts going into there, your market, well, any market that goes, you start seeing it crumble on the seams. You know, and rising debt is passing wages by I don't know how many, 400 and something weird percent. It's weird, the amount of gap between wages and cost of living. You know, and this second economic recovery, I think Australia's in its fourth economic recovery right now that didn't go through an economic recovery. So it's been building a phony recovery on another phony asset bubble. And I've been talking about this for years, guys. This is not a fly-by-night channel where I'm all of a sudden on the housing market talking about all this doom and gloom. This has been years. So to have so now the Labor's plan, they're planning, the party there is planning to restrict tax breaks for landlords that could wipe 300. So there's tax. So if you're a landlord, you could do negative gearing in Australia, where you could expense your interest rate and bills and expenses to keep your family, keep your business afloat, because you're expensing what you're using to repair your place and other stuff and odds and ends and office paper and faxing and all that stuff, you know. To have a recession that we don't need to have, every economy goes through a rough patch. Just because of short-sighted policy restrictions doesn't make any sense. Okay, you know what? I could bet you 100 to 1. You leave. Leave the tax breaks on for landlords. Go ahead, leave it on. You're going to see the bubble go even worse. They're trying to find ways to deflate this artificial bubble that was built on 3 previous bubbles. A recession means higher unemployment. It means people not having money to enjoy life. It means people not doing it a lot tougher than they need to be. So what it is not that. It's not enjoying life. It's not having kids, not getting married, not settling down, and turning people into robots. The Adelaide-based mortgage broker predicted Sydney's Melbourne price would fall 300 large under Labor's negative gearing plan, adding banking Royal Commission recommendations on lending rules would also put more downward pressure on house prices. People need to think very carefully about their votes in this upcoming election, he said. Mr. Martin predicted Labor's policy could cause a house price to plunge 30% compared with what they were almost 2 years ago when Sydney and Melbourne house prices peaked. Remember those videos I was putting up 2 years ago telling people they're nuts to buy in this crazy markets? I was there. He accused the shadow treasurer Chris Bowen of kicking in the guts the hardworking mums and dads and condemning them to a life of misery. That's right. It's called the Sydney and Melbourne, or the Sydney house arrest. I called it the Australian powder keg, mortgage powder keg, Australian debt bomb. Then I called it the Australian, what was it after that? Australian housing prison. And now I call it the Australian house arrest, the Great Australian Mortgage House Arrest. And that's what is happening. And Mr. Martin stands to lose out on Royal Commission's recommendation that lenders be banned from paying trailing commission fees to mortgage brokers for the life of the loan. Oh, wow. So this is Bushy Martin pictured, accused of shadow treasurer of Chris Bowen, kicking in the guts of hardworking mums and dads and condemning them to a life of misery. So that's a big accusation. Whew. That's a huge accusation right there. Detached real estate values in Australia, the biggest housing market plunged 10.9% in the year of January 31st, with Sydney's median values now at $902,786. I still remember when I was posting videos in the tail end of 2018, and I was saying September when Sydney was going into spring and summer, and I remember in September, because it was going into spring there, people were saying, oh, the spring market's going to bounce back up, and we're reading the articles. What a bunch of garbage. Lies. If you can't secure the financing, you won't get the item. That's just how it works. Unless you did what I did, just do layaway and pay it free and clear. During the past year, Melbourne's median house price has also fallen 10.6% to $740,000. Wow, remember when we were reading it before, back in the day, they were in the million, 1.2, 1.1 to 1. Oh, it was crazy. Following an Australian Prudential Regulation Authority crackdown on investor and interest-only loans, Labor is also proposing to have the capital gains tax discount from selling an investment property from 50% to 25% in a bid to discourage investors from competing with first home buyers for the property. First-time home buyers, guys, sit back, relax. No flows coming out of China, with foreign investors retreating, and now with the next electoral platform, people running, they're going to be running to fix this housing crisis. And that's going to be their big political platform. And I said this years ago when the Liberal Party came into power in Canada, when the even Donald Trump went into power in the United States. I said they need to fix these problems. They're going to be like Jacinta from New Zealand and Phil Tyford. They promised a revolutionary housing plan. Now they're banning foreign investing. A little bit too little too late, but they're looking out for the interests of their people. But when you ban the foreign investing in homes, I'm saying foreign investors from investing in homes, it brought down in a dismal 4 months 20%. Housing has dropped because of that. And you can see what's been fueling the economies there. Housing economy, if you want to put it that way. Over 90% of investors are buying existing properties in locations that first home purchasers would normally want to live. So, investors, okay? So, basically, the affordable or lower income or affordable housing that the average guy that works his butt off, hey, let's just say a doctor, a nurse, and a police officer live there. They would live in one of those kind of places because they can't afford anything extravagant in Australia. You know what I'm saying? So it's gotten so bad in those big cities. But it's okay. The mass exodus and the people leaving these big cities in huge numbers is showing the government or showing the people in power or showing the big man that we don't have to take your crap. We're leaving the big city and we're moving out. So I got a lot of emails of people telling me, hey, I left the big city, Mike. I left Sydney. I left Melbourne. I moved to Hobart. I moved to other places. Now I moved to Darwin, wherever, right? And then now, how are they going to fit the bill? How are they going to do? They're going to have to raise property taxes, or they're going to have to raise some sort of tax on something to offset the city expenditures. How are they going to fund the city expenditures? How are they going to fund the public transit, the hospitals, police? How is the city of Sydney or the city of Melbourne going to fund that when everybody that actually pays the tax, the blue collar and the white collar workers that actually sit there and actually surrender part of their pay, how are they gonna fund these projects? They're not. Remember what I said a few months or a year or two ago? Sydney is crane city, 400 and something cranes. We did a whole show about how many cranes are in each city, and Sydney won the Crane City Award on my channel. You know what I'm saying? If you guys remember that, yeah. Good. Over 90% of investors are buying, so they're buying in areas where first-time home buyer. Why? Because the product is cheaper. When you're buying lower income or average first-time home buyer homes, you're taking away a future from an Australian proper, from settling down, raising children, and having a family. House prices have doubled every decade for the last 4 decades, or in Sydney and Melbourne in particular. Remember, guys, I've been saying that Australia in its own has been in pretty much a bull market since 1975. I wasn't lying to you guys when I said that. Sydney is also the world's third most expensive property market behind Hong Kong and Vancouver. The Demographia International Housing Affordability Survey for 2019 found. This situation means many younger people, even those on above average full-time salaries of $85 large a year, are struggling to buy a house or even apartment in Sydney. Someone on that kind of wage would already be spending 40% of their take-home pay on servicing a mortgage for a $500,000 apartment with 20% deposit factored in. Yeah, that's if everything fits. And that's if you don't have an auto loan and all these side credit cards and payday loans. You know what I'm saying? Shadow Treasurer Chris Bowen this month argued 70% of the capital gains tax discount and negative gearing went to the top 10% of income earners. Simply put, each of these subsidies have become a vehicle to make Australia a fair place, but provide further support to those who need it less than others, he said. The opposition wants to free up $80 billion in government spending over the next decade so more money can be dedicated to schools and hospitals. Yeah. It's not just labor negative gearing policy which is upsetting baby boomers. Wealthy retirees are particularly increasing at the plan to wind back a system whereby excessive tax refunds are given out to shareholders who live off their dividends or superannuation. The Alliance for the Fair Retirement System, which represents self-management, superannuation funds, and shareholders, has described Labor's party as cruel blow, disputing the opposition's assertion about rich retirees. They have saved for retirement under the rules and have been placed for over a decade, and now find they will lose up 30% of their income in one hit if the Labour elected implement this policy. The group's chairman, Deborah, told Gold Coast Retirees Summit in January. The Self-Management Superfund Association chief executive John told Daily Mail Australia Labour's policy is both unfair and discriminatory. So what do you guys think of that? That's what I'd like to know, you know. Especially with everything going to the top 10% wealthiest, right? However, Labor points out the nation's 10 wealthiest self-funded retirees already claiming on average $2.5 million a year from taxpayers, despite having investments worth at least $100 million. In March last year, Shadow Treasurer Chris Bowen declared the Labor government will crack down on the generosity franking credit systems to bid to save the taxpayer $5 billion a year. The changes are aimed at those who lived off their dividends and superannuation and paid no income tax. Wow. So this is what the is this in Australia? doesn't look like it's in Australia. There's no Australians there. It looks like foreign investors here. Yeah, it's all foreign investors. Wow. Unless it's a brand new property, opposition wants to stop landlords from claiming tax breaks if they make a loss of renting out a house or an apartment. Yeah, because if you show someone this picture, where is this? That's somewhere in Asia. That's nowhere. Wow. That's not. Is this? Yeah, Daily Mail Australia. Yeah, it's in Australia. Holy smokes. A week after announcing the policy last year, Labour partially backed down. So 300 pensioners who relied on franking credits would be spared from losing their tax benefits. However, Labour is pushing on with its plan to undo the generous tax credit system, where tax cash refunds, also known as franking credits, are given to share owners even though they haven't paid any income tax. All right, that's enough. John Howard's coalition government introduced this policy in 2001 with the support of the opposition. Labour, under Bob, introduced the dividends imputation system in 1987, so shareholders receiving dividends weren't taxed twice. Making this case, Mr. Bowen cited Australian Taxation Office the data showing the average cash refunds going to the nation's top 10 self-managed super funds, which had assets of more than $100 million. So that is pretty scary, man. Lots going on. Lots going on in Australia. Everything's going to start unwinding. I know the Royal Commission's there. So here's Australian House rules. Sydney down 10.9%. Melbourne down 10.6%. Brisbane up 0.1%. Adelaide up 0.9%. Perth down 5.9%. Hobart up 7%. Woo, Russian women. Darwin up 2.3%. Canberra up 4.3%. But Canberra is going to keep going up because it's now becoming one of the most expensive places right now in Australia. So, yeah, that's what's happening. So I think a lot of people from reading this are going to be voting Labour. I think that's what's going to happen. If they could implement some of these laws into place and stop the rich from getting richer. Yeah, I am very upset that, there wasn't a lot more people out there warning people on the ground. Are people scared of losing their day jobs? Are people afraid of speaking up? I've been talking about this for years. Everyone called me a lunatic. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you go to even my YouTube channel here, everyone, the amount of, if you go to some of my comments, people wrote about me. It's like, oh, this bloke isn't from Australia. He has no idea the prices will never go down here. And you go into my channel, you type in here, you type in watch. Let's see what hasn't been deleted. For some reason, so much of my stuff has been deleted from Australia that I have no idea why or how, or even, there's another one here from 1 year, another one from, see, Australia's brain drain, people leaving. This is from 2 years, 3 years ago. This is at the old house. This is when I was talking about that, people leaving. Forecasted for I spelled forecasted wrong. That's okay. More housing Australia stuff from 3 years ago, 2 years ago. A lot of my older stuff is gone. Dead powder keg in Australia. It goes way back. But unfortunately, like this one, it says it's from 2 years ago, but I was living here 2 years ago. This is from my house this is my townhouse in Vancouver that I was renting. So I don't know. So yes, look at this from 2 years. P.S. People following the housing market, pay attention. Australia is in a major housing bubble that will make the 2007 and 2008 crash look like a canoe ride in calm water. Yep. Oh yeah. Wow. See, Australia, I've had your back forever now. Oh man, look at all these. These are all Australia videos, guys. Oh, you got to see this one. I actually made a compilation for you guys. And earlier, English speaking. Yeah, You got to see
That's
this.
like 10.
Rest in peace. Counting for roughly half of its growth. And
Okay,
these are all the
I might
videos
be
I've
out
been
of my
making over
mind
all
or
the
out of
years.
my.
This is just for Australia. I've done it for Toronto. I've done it for Vancouver. So Canada as a whole too. I've done it for the United States. I've done it for the UK. I've done it for New Zealand. You know, so I just kind of wanted to throw that out there for you guys. Oh wow, Australia, UK interest only mortgages. Oh wow, I've been talking about this that it's a very bad move years ago. Liar loans. Wow, there's so much here, guys. And we could be here for hours looking at all these videos. I think we could be here for hours scrolling through these videos. Look at that. Australian banking disaster from 10 months ago. Wow. Wow. It just keeps going. Look. Sydney drops. That one's from 2016. Wow. So much information, just so much talking. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd like to know what is happening in Australia. Why wasn't a lot of this stuff brought forward? Why wasn't this? I guess everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid and having a fun time at parties and jumping on the property ladder and just enjoying the gains they were making on a monthly or quarterly basis and feeling rich on paper. Now it's over. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit me up at the tip jar. If I saved you money, hit me up at the tip jar on PayPal. Don't be cheap. Thanks for watching, guys.